Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal, and the War Within Early Access period has seen so many players already hitting max level, if not on the first, maybe even on their second character, with many more players doing even more leveling before the actual official launch of the War Within expansion. And for the first 2 weeks of the expansion's launch, it's going to be a massive leveling period to give every player in the game plenty of opportunity to get all caught up and situated in the brand new zones, to get familiar with the brand new factions and figure out which character you're going to level or which professions you're going to invest into, so on and so forth. And during that time period, there isn't too much opportunity for endgame gearing. Season 1 content does not begin for some time. However, there's still plenty of opportunity to start gearing pretty early on to make sure that you're ready for that Season 1 content, with players potentially being able to achieve up to 590 item level early on during the very first 2 weeks of this expansion. In this video, I'm going to go over exactly what you can do to start gearing during those early 2 weeks of War Within. As always, if you guys want to see more guide videos like these for the War Within expansion, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. Otherwise, let's dive right in. So right before we actually get into how to gear in War Within Early Access and the release, you should be aware that the Dragonflight's upgrade system did make its way into the War Within expansion. So if you played in Dragonflight Season 2, 3, and 4, the whole Valor Stones, Flight Stones, as well as the Crest system, it's exactly the same, so you don't really need explanation there. However, if you're new to War Within or haven't played the last few expansions, it's an upgrade system that was added back during Dragonflight, with a couple of different currencies that allow you to upgrade gear beyond their means. You get currencies such as Valor Stones, which are awarded from just about all types of content from any activity. Literally anything you do in WoW awards you Valor Stones, which you'll want to sit on for the most part. And then you have Crests. Crests and Valor Stones are both needed depending on the difficulty and the level of an item you're trying to upgrade to. Crests come in different difficulty curves as well. There's 4 types of crests, like Weather Crests, for example, come from LFR raiding, heroic dungeons, and most open world activities. Then there's also a higher difficulty version of these crests called Carved Crests. These come from a +1 difficulty upgrade. Things like normal raiding, Mythic 0 dungeons, +3 keystones, certain higher challenge open world content, and delves that are equivalent to like a normal raid difficulty. So all of those things come from various difficulties, and you can get them just by playing the game. And it allows you to upgrade items to a whole new potential. So these shoulders, for example, start out at 584 item level. Nothing amazing. However, if you do have enough resources to upgrade these items, you could potentially turn them into a 606 item level shoulders, comparable to the raid quality gear shoulders, which is really, really cool. This is the best part of this upgrade system, is how it allows you to upgrade items to a whole new level. If you're brand new to War Within, however, for the most part, I wouldn't really go in and interacting with the system too heavily. For the most part, I would just bank up as much Valor Stones and Crests up until Season 1, where you'll be able to start to get some of the more higher end gear, and I wouldn't really spend this currency that early on unless you know exactly what you're doing. And now that we got that out of the way, we can finally talk about how to actually gear during the early days of the War Within expansion, starting out with the very, very basic things such as quests as well as world quests. World quests, which majority of them I've cleared out for my entire map, award you a decent bit of starting gear. Actually, just absolute starter of starter gear. Nothing to write home about, but it'll be one of the best ways for you to be able to pick up a couple items here and there once you hit max level. And also we get a new bonus for open world activities, since they decided to really juice up the open world stuff for this expansion. By completing through world quests of certain zones, you unlock special assignments, which are essentially like big open world group activities where you either can have to defeat a bunch of rares with a group for certain resources to summon a boss and then defeat it together, or something a little more creative like flying around on a storm griffin, shooting down a massive kaiju mech that is spawned in the water that is about to clash with a rock titan, and you're trying to soften up the mech, try to take it down to make sure that the rock titan wins. So essentially they're creative open world group activities that anybody can participate in the open world, but you have to complete a couple of world quests before you can unlock them. And these assignments award you with a variety of different quality goodies, as well as keys that you can use in delves for bountiful delves, which we'll talk about in a second when we talk about the delve section. Besides this, you also notice that zones have special events such as Theater Troop over in the Isle of Dorn. In the Ring of Deeps we have Hidden Away Behind My Quest, Awakening the Machine, as well as in Hollowfall we have a unique event called Spreading the Light. Now all of these events are supposed to award you with things such as gear, materials to upgrade your gear, gold, as well as a variety of different goodies, though in the early access version of War Within, none of these things are functional. There's a good chance that by the time that the game officially launches, then all of these events will be functional. As for right now though, none of these events are really worth the while, but at the very least you should be aware that they do exist, so when they are functional, if they're functional by the time the game officially releases, you should definitely participate in these events because the amount of items you can get from them potentially could be huge. Now, another thing you could start doing right now is actually doing rare hunting, and just by flying around all over every single one of the zones, you'll be able to most likely stumble upon a few rares here and there. Rares don't always have a guaranteed items that they drop when it comes to gear, but there's a good chance they have something for at least one of your characters to use. For me, for the most part, I actually got a bunch of different items that I have stored in my bank that are actually warbound gear that all of my ults are going to be able to use. For example, I was able to get myself a massive sword with my Death Knight or my warrior is going to love once they get to max level. My Death Knight essentially has one of the better weapons literally ready to go for max level content once they hit level 80. Then I have things such as a pickaxe that can utilize on other characters that has a bonus unique effect that transforms the character. Cloth characters will actually be able to get a couple of items they could utilize. So if I level a Clothy, they actually have some decent items good to go off the bat of the presses, and all those things I got from just defeating rares. So there's just a chance of you being able to get some kind of an item that either your character or maybe an ultiverse can utilize in the future. But outside of open world content, we also have instant content such as dungeons, and right now for the early access we only have access to normal dungeons, but various difficulties are going to become accessible as we get closer to the Season 1 opening. Right now though, normal dungeons don't really award you the greatest gear. The item level for these things are going to be 554, which is at least a start. If anything, dungeons are an excellent source of Valor Stones, so they're definitely worth doing on a fresh new character as soon as you hit level 80. However, another piece of content that is definitely worth your time are the delves. Delves are scattered all throughout the open world, so you actually have to fly to them directly. You can't queue for them like you can for dungeons, but delves are pretty easy to do. You can do them solo and award you relatively similar gear to that of a dungeon. However, delves can also be turned into bountiful delves, and this is kind of random where the delve becomes a bountiful delve. Like for instance, you can see one of these delves is not lit, it's just a plain old delve, but if you go to this one over here, the delve called Skittering Breach, it is lit up. It says it's a bountiful delve. That means if you have a special key, you can actually unlock extra goodies from those delves. These bountiful keys can be earned through a variety of content, mostly through open world activities, which you'll want to do in order to get more bountiful keys. And when you do go into this delve on a currently tier 3, the items you can get out of it can actually be very, very solid, especially if you utilize the upgrade system. However, if you are trying to min-max this type of system, or if you're somebody who's a solo player and you just want to get the most out of these delves, it's a good idea to hold on to these keys and not use them until seasonal content arrives, because once seasonal content is here, you can upgrade delves to a higher tier. And those higher tier delves allow you to get better gear from those delves. So if you're trying to get the most amount of good high item level pieces from delves, bank up those keys. Don't utilize them at the very beginning. Better just to save them up until seasonal content is here, but it is something you can start working on pretty early in the War Within release. Now, another form of gearing that you can do right now is actually through the Renown track, which is essentially reputations for the various factions of Kaz Algar. From the Council of Dornogal to the Assembly in the Deeps, you got the Hollowfall Arathi and the Severed Threads. And as you advance your way through all of these factions, you get a variety of different bonuses, from cosmetics such as expeditionary capes, as well as certain items, as well as profession components that you can utilize, as well as new opportunities for you to create and collect mogs in order to expand your transmog collection. But one of the better benefits of the Renown system is on certain Renown tracks you can actually acquire gear upgrades if you have enough reputation with certain factions. For example, by completing enough Renown with the Dornogal faction, you're able to get things such as Shoulders of Veteran track. They are also part of this upgrade system that we mentioned earlier, and you're able able to buy them with in-game currencies that you could get from a variety of different open world activities. And every single one of these factions has a couple of early items that you can actually acquire pretty easily without even having to do too much investment into the whole renowned track. All it took is a couple of world quests as well as a couple of world events, as well as a few side quests here and there. So if you're leveling a brand new character through side quests instead of dungeons, technically dungeons are going to be quicker. But if you do end up leveling a character through side quests, the amount of rep that you can gain for completing every single one of those quest chains is massive and allows you to fly through the renowned tracks really quickly. These are the same renowned tracks as that what we saw in Dragonflight, but I feel like something about these that you're breezing through them a lot quicker than you did in Dragonflight. At least that's how it feels to me. So if you're trying to get yourself a couple of pieces that you could just immediately purchase as soon as you hit max level, just by working on those renowned tracks and getting as much rep as possible, allows you to potentially purchase some of those items for early gear upgrades for a fresh new character. Now, another way that you can gear your character is actually through professions. You won't be able to create purple pieces immediately when it comes to leatherworking or blacksmithing or tailoring, but you will be able to start upgrading and creating some decent starter blue items that can be further enhanced if you know your way around the profession track. For instance, if you're trying to create a shoulder piece, you can even specify which secondary stats you want on those if you have the missives, which are going to be a little bit expensive at first. You can even enhance all of your items with additional extra reagents that are going to be a little bit to come by at the start of an expansion. However, if you're familiar with the Dragonflight's crest system and crafting system, then you should know that you can turn some of your Harbinger Weather Crest into a Nascent Crest in order to create the Enchanted Weather Harbinger Crest. This is an item that allows you to change the quality of some of your blue basic crafted items to an upgraded quality, anywhere starting from an item level of 577 to as high as an item level of 590 if the leatherworker or a blacksmith or the tailor is proficient enough with their profession. Which is how I've been able to create a couple items like a sword at rank 4 as well as a dagger at rank 4, so at least I have some dedicated haste heavy weapons to utilize from a rogue, as well I'm losing haste bit by bit as I get additional levels. And I've also been able to invest very little amount of currency as well as materials in order to be able to get myself a couple of items to help fill out some of my item level gaps. So getting ahead of things when it comes to professions and trying to make some of your own items by managing a couple of characters together, or just by specking into, let's say, skinning and leatherworking and creating items for yourself, this can open up opportunities for you to be able to start making your own crafted gear early on during the very first few weeks of this expansion. These are definitely all going to be items that you'll end up replacing once Season 1 starts, so you shouldn't make too much investment in terms of gold or materials in order to be able to craft some of these items. But if you're like me and you love that item level and gear treadmill of WoW, then it may be a good idea to look into crafting professions in the future. But with that being said, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching this video, and I hope all of you enjoyed. If you did enjoy it or found it informative, go ahead and give it a like. I would very much appreciate it. As always, join our Discord community, probably the best place to reach out to me directly or ask any questions in the community. If you have any difficulties or issues or just don't really know how things work in the War Within, feel free. The community is awesome. Everybody there is super nice. Everybody's there more than likely to answer your questions, or maybe I'll be around to answer them as well. So join our Discord. Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. And as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.